Hi everybody, namaste and welcome to my talk today on India. Psychic predictions for India in 2022. Later on I hope to be able to get some access to the Nadis. I might be able to do some of that for you later on, but for now it's me giving my psychic predictions for 2022 for India. Right, I've talked about India quite a lot in some of my other videos, but I'm going to specifically focus today on India and what I feel about what's going to be happening for India in the future. Now, the main thing, apart from COVID, which is obviously a major worry still, but I mean, one of the main threats I think in 2022 is going to be the threat of China. China is becoming a major problem for the world, in my opinion, and I feel that ultimately India is going to have to confront China. Now, when you think back to 1951, when Tibet was invaded by China, what happened in Tibet, was that it was taken by surprise completely. The invasion happened almost spontaneously, without any sign, and they threw up fireworks. The Tibetan army had out-of-date Bangalore rifles and so forth, old British cannons. They hardly stood a chance. But you could have defended Tibet quite easily in some respects with all those mountains and hillsides and a lot of snipers. You'd have had a hell of a job to take it over. But the problem was with Tibet is a number of people betrayed the Tibetan government and let the Chinese in. It's a long story, but basically China undermined the Tibetans before going in there, and Tibet fell quite quickly. Same thing I think we got to worry about with China, because I think in 2022 one of the big news stories is going to be the fact that there's going to be a big expose of spies. Chinese spies, actually there'll be Indian people, but they've been compromised by China. Chinese spies working within the Indian government, working within the Indian police force, working within the Indian military. And I see in 2022 there's going to be a massive great expose. It's going to be something like we saw when there was Assange giving a load of information and something, big data spill of some sort that's going to reveal that those people that should be the guardians of India are actually betraying it. So that's going to be, this big scandal is going to drive another big drive within India to drive out corruption. I think the driving out of corruption is going to be very important in 2022 because of this mainly, but for many other things as well. And returning to the thoughts about Tibet, incidentally, when the Dalai Lama dies, I feel China is going to try to put a fake Dalai Lama in place. They're going to wheel out the Panchen Lama, who was a young kid that was kidnapped long time ago, will now be a full adult, who they're going to try to say, now this is going to be your Dalai Lama. The Panchen Lama is the second in command in India. But it won't work. It'll fail. That plot will fail. But anyway, that's another one for another time, and I'm going off topic here. But just like Tibet, when India is attacked, it will be uncompromising, it will be sudden, it will be out of the blue. And this is why India in 2022 is going to be spending a lot of money on armaments, because the threat of China is going to become much more aware. The public's going to become much more aware of it. In fact, I see, again going to Tibet, I see them putting military rockets and missiles and things on holy places such as Lhasa in Tibet. You know, they're going to have holy places, which is going to make you think twice about hitting it. You know, I feel that this is part of the Chinese strategy. And although I don't see an invasion of India at this time, I think this year, 2022, is going to be a time when India is going to be taking very serious stock of military things. During 2022, China is going to be distracted much more by Taiwan, because that's what I feel is going to be the major worldwide crisis at this time. But this is why India is going to sort of wake up to the fact, my God, China is not a benign force. They are a dangerous, aggressive force that wants to dominate the world, really. So China doesn't want India to advance economically. It wants India to fail. It wants India to become the weak neighbour. But India's not going to do that. India's going to keep moving forward. So I think in the years forward, I think they will see that there's so much hostile weaponry there, and that indeed that China does have expansion plans into India, and it would like to do that. In fact, I think there will be one conflict which I think China will actually have to back from, because the Aksai, is that how I pronounce it? The Aksai area of India, where we've had the Chinese taken over basically part of India, and a big conflict back there quite some time ago, 60s, was it? A long way back. But that stalemate's going to continue for a while, but I think China's going to try to make a move on that again. So I see big armament build-ups around that area and conflicts in that area. And I think there would be a more serious conflict in that area in 2024, which is the time of the Indian elections, if I'm right. And I feel that's going to be a political hot potato at that time. I think eventually India will get that area back, actually. And I think there will be a treaty with China over that. Might be something to do with all this Taiwan business, but there will be a treaty over that at some point. But that treaty will be broken again. And so I feel that this is still going to be an area of difficulty. I feel a bit more positive with the disputes with Pakistan and the problems over Kashmir and things like that. And I think actually I'm seeing again, China's trying to inflame the problems between India and Pakistan. I think this is something that's going to be revealed again, you know, that maybe they're trying to make us bigger enemies than we need to be. And I think that India and Pakistan are going to have a bit of cooperation in 2022. The reason being is because I see a huge flood of Afghanistani refugees coming into Pakistan, coming into India, coming into all the surrounding countries, a complete exodus of Afghanistan. You know, we've had the withdrawal of the Americans. It's kind of a lids on it at the moment, but I'm seeing people flooding into the countries nearby, and I see some cooperation between Pakistan and India over this, and perhaps a little bit more friendly attitude towards each other, because we've got a common problem that we must deal with. And the problem we have in that whole region, all around all the areas of India at the moment, is that too many people are trying to interfere. China's trying to do its bit, and I think Russia's just as bad. India's bought arms off Russia in the past, but I'm seeing that Russia will be siding with China in the years to come. And this is going to cause a lot of conflict of interest in India. And I see India buying its arms in the future from the USA and buying its arms from Europe, as opposed to working with Russia again. We might see, like we saw in, I predicted it with the submarine crises and things that I saw ahead, but also there seemed to be that submarine deal in Australia that flipped. I think that we'll see changes going on there. So when it comes to pollution and things like that. Now that's current at the time I'm talking to you now, because I'm talking to you now in November 2021. And so we got all the Glasgow thing here in the UK going on with everybody trying to sort the world's problems out. I actually think India will keep to what it said. It's been a bit more modest about what it says it can achieve, and has kind of pushed the keeping coal power and things fairly far into the future. But I think India will actually beat that. I think it's promising less, but will give more. I'm seeing in India some big new investments in infrastructure for public transport. I mean, infrastructure is a huge thing in India. When I was in Delhi last, they were throwing up roads and motorways and things at breakneck speeds. But I think we're going to see much more into public transport as a way of breaking some of the pollution that's caused from so many of the antiquated and out of date cars and so on that are there in India. So I think they'll keep to the goals of both the Paris and the Glasgow summits. I also see now Modi at the conferences in Glasgow didn't actually say much about tree planting, which surprised me, because I think he's got another card up his sleeve. Because I think if India can't fulfill its need to get rid of coal power so much, and I don't think it will at first, I think it's going to be still building and keeping coal power, but I do think they're going to do a big mango and tree planting thing in India. It will help with the floods as well that I see coming, which I'll talk about. Modi didn't announce it in Glasgow, but I think, like I say, it's an ace up his sleeve, and I think he will announce a huge tree building project. You imagine if every Indian person planted 4 trees, India would flourish. We'd have a massive amount of foliage, wouldn't we? I just feel that something like that's coming up. So I think India will rely on coal for quite a long time, up to 2025 at least, and maybe even further. But I think India will also simultaneously develop much more solar power, and will eventually, and I say eventually, it's not going to be in 2022, but eventually will become a real powerhouse for energy, pure energy, sunlight, because sun, you know, the sun is always been considered as being sort of almost holy in India, and I think light from the sun has a certain energy to it that might even be positive for the planet because of it's coming from the sun. But so Surrey there is going to be helping to get the energy going again, and I think India will ultimately export energy to the world and export energy to Europe, and might be able to eventually sort of be able to export energy and surpass Russia's exportation of oil to Europe. I also see there's going to still be coal power, and I see India buying more raw materials, buying more coal and things like that from Australia, and I do see a big deal being done with Australia. In fact, I've said it before, and I've said before about how there will be in the world an alliance between what were the English-speaking peoples of the world. So I'm seeing England and UK, I'm seeing Australia, I'm seeing New Zealand, I'm seeing Canada, I'm seeing America, and I've put them more, but also India as part of a new kind of common market, but also an alliance militarily, and also trading partners, and also custodians of democracy. I see this coming together. It's a bit like a mini British Empire, actually, that I'm seeing, except it will be governed and ruled by, dominated by India, and more so as the centuries go by. And this will become something that I think will safeguard democracy, will help to stem the tide of China, and we might even get people like Japan as being part of it as well. But this will become something that will become a powerful force economically, and will be led by India. So there will still be a continual crisis in Indian agriculture. Now I know there's serious problems with the farmers protesting there, and the everybody looking after their own self-interests here in India, a lot of poor problems. But I think we're going to see these problems made worse because I'm seeing really bad weather in India. In fact, I see drought. I see the drying up of paddy fields in southern India. I see periods of no rainfall, and then absolutely over the top monsoon type rains coming at times when monsoon rain shouldn't come. So I see these problems between drought and flood, and this will make things much harder. And I see the government in India trying to centralise farming more and more, and this will not be liked. And like I say, ultimately it's the small homesteads, the small people, the small guys in India that will make a different way of doing things. So I think something good will come out of this, which will be more focus on that the small homesteads are where India's at. We do not have to do things the same way that they did in the old industrial revolution. This is a new industrial revolution in India. This is an India that works on the small guy. And that's how India will thrive economically over and above all the other countries in the world. It won't be thinking in terms of big industry. It will think in terms of small industry that brings things like innovation, new ideas. It values the individual. And this way, India advances quickly with new technologies and things like that. So COVID is obviously a problem, and also the dengue that's going around as a new epidemic there. Unfortunately, I see those increasing. I see those increasing in the period as we go into the new year in India, but it will tail off. So it will peak again, and it will be quite bad again, but it will tail off. Eventually, I think India will conquer it all, both epidemics. I think in 2022 it's going to go a long, long way to doing that. But I feel the battle continues, particularly with COVID, for another 2 years in India before they can, they can feel that they've conquered it, pretty much. In the future, India will be called Bharat by the whole world. Okay, and that is going to be a political issue, I feel, that's going to rise in India over 2022 and come to a crisis by 2024. They will want to change the name of India. The name of India will be changed sometime after 2024, after the next elections, because I think it's going to become an issue. It's going to become that this is what we are. So that has implications, of course, by saying that, because when we think of Bharat, if I pronounce it wrong, I always get it wrong, but Bharat, sorry, I'm English, I get it wrong a lot. But if we think about it, that did include, the original country did include Bangladesh, Myanmar, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Indonesia even. It was a huge country, almost double the size that India is at the moment. And I think that some of the countries, I think in a long term, I see India becoming what it was. I feel it will engulf those countries. It will grow into those countries, not by conquest, but because those countries will want to become part of India. This is not in 2022, I remind you, but this is further forward in the future. And I think a lot of this will be triggered by a big tsunami that will happen. And that tsunami will flood Bangladesh. And Bangladesh will be on its knees in desperation, and it was in desperation. India will come in and say, "Do you want to become part of the mother country again?" And I believe that that's what will happen, and Bangladesh will become part of India because it will want to become part of India. And many of the problems that have occur between Islam and Hinduism and so forth, and the conflicts, that many of those things by that time will have been cleared because of the spiritual awakening that will be happening in India, which I'll talk about later. And when that happens, also there's a prophecy that the Jagannath Temple in Puri will be flooded at that time. I think that's all the same time, because when that tsunami comes, it also floods the eastern coast of India. So that will be a tremendously difficult time, that. But it will bring good things ultimately, because it's going to bring union of countries and races. And by that time, we would be seeing a very big spiritual change happening in the world. I also see in the future a very big earthquake happening in northern India, actually, and I've mentioned that before. It didn't happen at the time I thought it was going to happen, so I'm not going to say it's going to happen now, because I obviously got it wrong then. I might get it wrong now. But with a lot of these things, getting things in terms of normal chronological time as we know it is very difficult, because what's potentially there, what's in the bow that's about to be let go, as it were, we never know when the finger's gonna leave the bow, as it were. These things happen according to spiritual time, so they're more like a timetable, and they're an agenda, but they're not necessarily easy to pin down time-wise. But I do see that there will be a giant earthquake in years to come in the north of India, and the bursting of a big dam there one day that will see some problems, and it may even cause problems with the flow of the river Ganges even. And we'll see higher than average seismic activities this year worldwide still. I think the biggest worry for India at the moment actually was more these floods and things, these typhoons that I see hitting India. Not tsunamis at the moment, I don't think, but I think that there will be major flood problems throughout India, particularly in southern India. Okay, so long term, I'm saying that India will become a huge economic powerhouse. So I'm moving ahead now beyond 2022, because they will do things in a different way to the rest of the world, with the emphasis, like I've said, on small business, on keeping things small, inventive, innovative. India will make huge strides in terms of artificial intelligence development, IT development, all the high-tech stuff. I'm seeing really inventive and new ways of thinking too, you know, where the intuition, where the received, you know, the direct knowledge comes, where people can suddenly know something without having to rationalize it. Those ancient ideas of, I think it's called Shruti, isn't it? The knowledge where it just comes. That sort of intuitive, inventive knowledge will become something that will be driving India forward in ways that the rest of the world can't even comprehend. I also see in time, and I think there will be moves for this in 2022. There will be moves to abolish the caste system. You know, the caste system was put upon India by invaders. It was a misinterpretation of the original Vedic teachings, I think, a twist of things that was not really meant to be, in my opinion. And I think there's going to be a big swing away from the idea of a caste system, particularly 2022. It's not going to all happen in 2022, but gradually. And we'll see this, a growing middle class in India. At the moment, we seem to have two classes. We have the very rich and the tremendously poor. We can't have that. Same thing happened in the Industrial Revolution in the UK, didn't it? Now, I feel we will start to see a growing middle class in India. And I think that is going to become very important for India. And this division between rich and poor may become lessened because of that. It's the number one problem that really India needs to sort itself out over. So in the long term, the new Bharat will become the most powerful country in the world, or one of the most powerful countries in the world. I think America will have a second rebirth in time, and so will Europe. And I think there will be, and I've said in other videos, I think there will be some clamping down on China and imports from China, and carbon tax and things like this. These things are going to start to change the balance of things. But gradually, I feel India will thrive. And in the long term, India will turn back the Chinese tide. I've suggested in other videos that China will have its own revolution, another revolution in China, and proper democracy based upon the ideas of Sun Yat-sen will dominate China once again in the longer term future. I was hoping it was sooner now, but it will eventually get there. This will help India. And of course, the big thing with India ultimately is that India is not the same as every other country in the world. It's not as materialistic. It is materialistic, it's become materialistic in some ways, but there's still the underlying ancient teachings in India of the Sanatan Dharma. There's still the ancient knowledge there in India. And I feel that, you know, I really do believe in the prophecies of the Puranas, and that in time there will come a great avatar, the Kalki, or Kalki, isn't it pronounced, Avatar, the great avatar that will come to transform India and transform the world. And I really do feel that is happening. And I think Satya Sai Baba and Satya Sai Baba were the first signs of this. The next incarnation of the great energy will come. And I believe it's come already, actually. I believe there is somebody that has been born who would be now about 8 to 10 years old, and they will have their realization of who they are, round about the age of 15 and more. So it's not far away from us. I do believe that will happen, and we will have a complete revolution of consciousness, a complete revolution of spirituality, which will grow in India and flood the world. And this is what we say is the Satya Yuga, the age of truth that we will come into, because different ways of interpreting it. But some say that the Kali Yuga will last for thousands of more years, but there will be a period of about 5,000 to 10,000 years of golden age, and that's what we're on the edge of. Others say that we're on the turning point to the Dharma power, the next stage of on the way towards Satya Yuga. But either way, whatever, we are on a turning point, and it's here now, starting now, and all of us can become the Satya Yuga. We can, each of us, become the age of truth, you know? Become it. Not just think something's going to happen externally, it's going to solve all our problems. We must become it. We must become a spark of that divine light. And each of us, with many, many brilliant little lights, become a great shining sun. And that's how we must think. And that's how India will teach us, I feel, in the future. And since we're in Kali Yuga, it's time for an advert, because I would like to suggest to you, I don't know if you can buy it in India yet, but certainly those in the West that are watching this, would you like to be interested in my new book, which is Be Happy? And this is about my work with Sharavana Baba in India, and the teachings, this telepathic guru that I have some fantastic interactions with, and I decided to write a full book about him. And it tells the story of some of the incredible healings he does. It tells the story of how Sai Baba has shone through him, and the connection between him and Satya Sai Baba, which is remarkable, and also some of the wonderful stories and how he helped my grandson as well to get through type 1 diabetes. So it's loads in there with lots and lots of thoughts about the future of the world, particularly because he's a Bava, which means channels the spirit of the future, channels Shiva, channels various ways of coming into understanding of the future. So there's a lot in there about the future, not just of India, but the future of the world. So I hope you will spend some time and have a think about reading my book. Be happy, okay? Be happy. And finally, if you're new to the channel, do please subscribe and put your comments about what you think about what I've been saying today. Is it a load of baloney? Do you agree with it? Have I missed something out? Put all your thoughts in the comments, because it's so interesting when we start to generate new ideas between us and start thinking about these things collectively. And the comments is a good place to interact. So thank you very much for joining me today. I will see you soon. Bye for now. Namaste.